I'm Christine, and welcome to Harry Potter Book Talk. Today we're going to be discussing The Prisoner of Azkaban by Miss J.K. Rowling. If you don't know, I've been rereading all the Harry Potter books via audiobook. The audiobooks are fantastic. It's like a warm hug whenever I'm driving, whenever I'm feeling like it's too quiet. Turn it on. Harry Potter's like, come here, let's sit with a blanket on. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I love it. I started from book 5 and now I'm coming all the way back around, and I only have one more book left before I've completed my first Harry Potter reread in 5 years. Since I started booktubing. Insanity! So I've been absolutely loving the audiobooks. If you have any interest in listening to the audiobooks yourself, I'm actually an Audible affiliate, so if you use my link, which I'll put in the description, you can get your first book for free. Prisoner of Azkaban has always been my least favorite of the Harry Potter books. It's my least favorite movie because it's my least favorite of the stories that we get throughout the year. What I did forget about, because it's been so long since I read this, is how good Quidditch is in this book. God, I feel like I'm in the stands watching the game. I remember 1 hour chunk where I was in traffic and I was listening to the book, and it was the Ravenclaw versus Gryffindor Quidditch game. It was great. I was sitting in the car being like, no, wait, yelling at it like it was commentary on a radio show about this Quidditch game. It was awesome. I didn't hate the movie or anything, but it was the first movie where we changed things up. And Alfonso Cuarón came in and he made it look all filmy. He spiced up the cinematography. He made them wear real clothes instead of robes, which is great. He made it look better. But at the same time, it was so different from what we were used to from the first 2 films at that point, and I was still really young, and I don't know. But with that in mind, I actually forgot what it was like in the book when they went back in time. Oh, spoilers are coming. If you haven't read this book yet, you should go. Read it and then come back and we can discuss it together. All the Harry Potter books are fantastic, and now I almost have a book talk for every single book. It's very exciting. Feels like not enough people who watch BookTube have read Harry Potter. So many of you are coming in on that generation that missed it. Do yourself a favor. Read the Harry Potter books. It's amazing. Okay, going back to my spoilery discussion. So in the movie, that whole back in time sequence, I think, was much more fun than the back in time sequence in the actual book. And I had forgotten what it was like in the book. In the book, we save Buckbeak, and then we go hide in Hagrid's hut for a bit. And then we go down and Harry saves himself and Sirius and Hermione from the Dementors. In the movie, we get all these little things, like that rock that Hermione throws at Harry's head, and the howling that Hermione does to distract Werewolf Lupin and let them get away at one point. It's just more little fun, nuanced things that happened the first time around that we didn't know was gonna be Harry and Hermione, but ended up being Harry and Hermione. And then there's my favorite moment in the movie, when they're running back from their time turner adventure and they burst open through the doors and they disappear in front of Ron. And Ron's like, wait, you were here, and then you were just right there. Book 3 is where Hermione gets a time turner. In retrospect, I'm amazed that a student was given a time turner. What even? I mean, if there were to be a student who were worthy of a time turner, it would be Hermione. But at the same time, what if it fell into someone else's hands? Time turners are dangerous AF. You never know what someone could do with one of those. Who else is granted these time turners, you know? The more you think about it, the weirder it gets. Who else is worthy of that? Is there a job where people are trusted enough to have time turners? Do Aurors get time turners when they F something up and the bad villain gets away and they can go back in time and get him from a different angle? I mean, who knows? It's mind-boggling, and I think that's why we really never go into it again. It's very easy for that to create some sort of paradox in the entire world of Harry Potter. Year 3 is the year that students get to go to Hogsmeade, and so Harry has to get his permission slip signed. Permission slip signed. Oh my god. Permission slip signed. He has to get his permission slip signed, and Aunt Marge is coming, and Mr. Dursley makes a deal with him that if nothing bad happens when Aunt Marge is here, he'll sign his damn permission slip. I did not remember how much of an ass face this woman was. She's so violent. That woman deserved to be blown up. I think it was in an article in the Prophet about Sirius Black, where the mention of a gun came up, and the wizards described a gun as a sort of metal wand that muggles use to kill each other. A metal wand! No. I love that one of the many classes Hermione is taking this year is Muggle Studies. She wants to see how wizards view Muggles. When the gang gets to Hogwarts this year, it's announced that Hagrid is going to be the new Care of Magical Creatures teacher, and I had forgotten that this was because Harry, Ron, and Hermione cleared his name last year about opening the Chamber of Secrets. It was just such an emotional moment in this book for me. I started crying. It was so clear in that moment how excited he he was to be an actual part of the teaching staff, be able to teach about something he cares so passionately about. And Hermione and Ron and Harry were so proud. They were so happy. I was just very touched. Before school starts, we spend a lot of time in Diagon Alley in this book. Harry leaves his house right after he blows up Marge. He gets on the night bus, and he starts living in the leaky cauldron. And there's this talking mirror in his room that when he looks into it, it'll comment on his appearance. He's lying in bed one night, trying to reason with himself, and out loud he goes, "No one's going to murder me." And the mirror talks back, and it's like, that's the spirit? That would scare the shit out of me. You're lying in bed in the dark and you talk to yourself aloud and something talks back. Because of the movies, I completely forgot that there was more than one trip to Hogsmeade where Harry went in. And the first time he went without his invisibility cloak. What an idiot. Why in the world, if you have an invisibility cloak, why wouldn't you use it to go to a place where you're not allowed to be? I don't understand. It's like these first 2 years at Hogwarts, Harry was so stupid. Harry had access to this all-powerful invisibility cloak and he did not know how to use it. He like leaves it all around. At the end, when they're in the Whopping Willow, he just leaves it at the base of the tree. They just fucking forget about it. And that's how Snape gets into the Shrieking Shack without being noticed, and he just stands there and listens to them for a while. Harry leaves the invisibility cloak in the witch's hump, in the secret passageway, on the floor at one point. He just leaves it in there. It's one of your most treasured possessions. He just left it in a passageway for ages. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. In book 3 is when we hear the story of Hagrid going to pick up Harry that night after his parents died. I completely forgot that Hagrid had run into Sirius at the house. When Sirius finds Hagrid with Harry, he goes, "Give me Harry, don't worry, I'll take care of him." Hagrid says, "No, sorry, I'm on strict orders from Dumbledore, I can't do that." But can you imagine if Sirius had gotten there and taken Harry first? How different his life would be. Would he have become even more like James? And would Sirius treat him more like a friend because he's so much like James? Or would Sirius end up being more strict with him, more fatherly, because he's raised him from such a small age? I don't know. I would like to see that alternate reality. Christmas this year, I completely forgot this entire scene. Hermione and Ron stay at Christmas to keep Harry company, and when they go into the Great Hall for the Christmas feast, there's just one table there with 12 chairs, and they sit with Dumbledore and Snape and McGonagall for dinner, for Christmas dinner. And there's like 2 other students there with them, and then there's the trio and the teachers. They have like a little Christmas family dinner. Trelawney is the last to walk in, and all the chairs are already taken. So Dumbledore goes, "Don't worry, I'll get you a chair." He literally draws a chair in the air with his wand, and then that chair comes to life. Dumbledore can draw things in the air, and they come to life. It's like SpongeBob with this special pencil. It's crazy. I was just in awe. I also forgot the firebolt comes at Christmas time. In the movie, it comes at the very end, and then he flies, and it freeze frames of him being really happy, and that's the last frame of the film. So he gets it at Christmas time, and Hermione is like, "Wait, you shouldn't ride that. It might be jinxed. You have to get it checked." And Harry and Ron are just so excited. They don't give a shit what Hermione says. So Hermione tells on them to McGonagall. So McGonagall comes up and takes the broom away from him, and she has it for a month while the teachers test it for jinxes. We get 3 awesome Quidditch matches. We have that horrifying one versus Hufflepuff in the rain, where we see Cedric Diggory, who, when he sees that Harry has fallen from his broom, and that's why he was able to catch the snitch, because of course he's the Seeker, he wants to redo it. He wants it not to count, because he feels like it's unfair. Such a good guy he is. Then we have the match against Ravenclaw with Cho Chang, and Cho keeps distracting Harry every time he sees the snitch. So it's not till like the 4th time he sees it that he finally gets to catch it. Oh, it's so intense. And then the last time, I think, is against the Slytherins, right? The game against the Slytherins was cray-cray. They were playing dirty. I should have taken notes on all these games, but I feel like every time I was listening to a Quidditch game scene, I was doing something like driving or doing dishes or something. And I was completely enthralled because it was great. But Malfoy, like, grabbed onto Harry's broom, so he was being dragged behind Harry as he tried to get up to get to the snitch. It was just pure insanity. Gryffindor finally wins the Quidditch Cup, and it is such a wonderful moment. I completely forgot this happened. It's such a shame that in the movie we only got one of these scenes when Harry fainted off his broom. We learned about the incident we hear about in book 1 where Dumbledore says James had saved Snape's life once. And it was during their time at Hogwarts. Sirius had thought it would be a funny joke to tell Snape how to get into the Shrieking Shack when Lupin was in werewolf form and would have killed him. And Snape goes to do this because he's so curious as to what Lupin is doing. And James finds out and he stops him. I completely forgot that the Shrieking Shack was made for Lupin when he came to Hogwarts. And I completely forgot what the Wolfsbane does, so he takes a potion now that was invented after his time at school that Snape makes for him every month that allows him to stay in his right mind when he transforms. So he's just a werewolf with a man's brain when he takes this potion. But back in the day, he has no control over himself when he turns into a werewolf, so he had to lock himself in the Shrieking Shack. Oh my god, I completely forgot about Crookshanks' role in this book. Hermione's cat is so weird. I'm reading this book being like, this cannot just be a cat. How can this just be a normal cat? She somehow knows that Scabbers isn't a real rat. We see her out in the forest just taking long walks with Sirius, like they're buddies, like they can speak when he's in animal form. I was just so confused. I'm just still so suspicious. I remember when I was reading this, I was so suspicious of Crookshanks. And I'm still like, how is this just a cat? Why is she so smart? How does she know all these things? How does she understand? She knows how to turn off the Whomping Willow and get into the Shrieking Shack. She's so weirdly intelligent. I don't like it. The last thing I really feel like I forgot about in this book was Buckbeak's demeanor with Hagrid. In the movie, we see Buckbeak and stuff. We see Harry ride him and all that. But in the book, for a long time, Buckbeak is staying in Hagrid's house, and he sits on Hagrid's bed, and when Hagrid walks by, he wants to go say hi to Hagrid. He's like a dog, he's like a puppy. It was a much more intense blow to hear that Buckbeak was gonna be killed in the book than it was in the movie. Yeah, it was upsetting in the movie because it was upsetting to Hagrid, but in the book it was also upsetting to us. I'm so glad that we saved him in the end. I don't know if I've told you guys this already, but Prisoner of Azkaban was the first Harry Potter book that I started reading because I asked for Harry Potter from my parents, and my mom bought me this one, not knowing that it wasn't the first one. I didn't know it wasn't the first one, and I started reading it. I read like, I feel like at least 50 pages, and I was so confused. And then of course I read the first two, and I came back to this one. The first time I read this, the part where the Dementors come and almost kill Sirius, Harry, and Hermione confused the shit out of me. Like someone came from the other side of the lake and a weird silver animal ran around them. We didn't know about Patronuses yet. I was only like 10 when I was reading it. I forgot how hard Patronuses are also. Like in future books, people always comment about, oh my god, you could do a full-fledged Patronus? That's cray-cray. It wasn't until after rereading this book where he learned the Patronus that I regained a real appreciation for the fact that he could produce a fully fledged Patronus. A stag, oh my god, I did not know what a stag was, and I was so confused for so long. Like, I came to the conclusion that it must be a horse, and for so long, I thought Harry's Patronus and his dad would turn into a horse, and I would think to myself, when they went out on the grounds, it must have looked so weird to see a horse running around with a dog. As is, if you picture the Marauders together, a deer, a dog, a rat, and a werewolf running around. That's an odd group of animals to be chilling together. And I'm surprised nobody caught on sooner that they weren't regular animals. Back to the not knowing what a stag was thing. I really don't think it was till book 7 when Ron made the comment that he thought the doe Patronus was Harry's Patronus, and Harry said, no, mine has antlers. I realized that it must not be a horse. And in the Prisoner of Azkaban movie, the Patronus doesn't take the shape of anything. It's just a big white light. That happened a lot in the movies. You couldn't see the fully fledged Patronus until book 5 when they were learning Patronuses in the Room of Requirement. Even in movie 7 part 1, when Kingsley sends the message to Bill and Flora's wedding, it appears as a white blob that speaks. Why doesn't it appear as an animal? Why was that so inconsistent? That always bothered me. Just make their Patronuses animals. It's one of the coolest parts of a Patronus is that it takes the form of your personality as an animal. Another thing that I've always kind of wondered about are James and Lily's Patronuses and why they are both deers. What are the chances that you and your soulmate both have deer Patronuses? It just seems so perfect. And now that I think about it, Harry's Patronus is the same as his dad's. Oh, wait a minute. We don't know what Harry's dad's Patronus was. We just know that that's his animagus form. Okay. His mother's Patronus was her husband's animagus form in female, but we don't know what James's actual Patronus is because we haven't seen his actual Patronus and we don't know anyone who used to be in love with him who is alive who has his Patronus now. Okay, I'm glad I just cleared that up for myself right here. I'm curious now as to what his Patronus actually was, because if it was a stag, then they're just a family of dear Patronuses. All three of them have the same Patronus. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm Christine. I'm at XTINEMAY on Twitter and Instagram. I have links to all my social medias in the description. I make videos every Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you next time. Bye!